At the end of every year, around the holiday season, people typically like to look back at all of the notable events that transpired throughout the past 12 months. The music we listened to, the technology we tinkered with, and of course, our topic of discussion today, the video games that we played. Today, we're celebrating the video games that made us smile in 2022. This isn't a list of games that we think are the best to come out this year, but rather a select list of games that individual members of our staff at Engadget found to be special to them. For example, spoiler alert, Immortality will end up on this list at some point in time, and while I definitely appreciated it for what it was, a few of our editors found it to be their least favorite game of the year. However, it made the list because our senior editor Devindra loved it. No numerical ranking or special criteria required. These are simply games that we loved in 2022. Immortality. Since I kinda let the cat out of the bag in the intro, it only makes sense to start with Immortality, an interactive film game comprising footage from 3 thought-to-be-lost films. The player must scrub through footage from those films in order to uncover the mysterious disappearance of an actress from those 3 films, Marissa Marcel. Our senior editor, Devindra Hardawar, called it a tribute to the surreal films of David Lynch, with a dose of Hitchcock for good measure. And that's an impression that I got as well. Personally, I also felt like I was playing one of those CD-based interactive full-motion video games from the 1990s, from the Sega CD era. And in 2022, that was surprisingly refreshing. Tunic. Our next entry on the list is a game we believe can really only be understood and fully appreciated upon playing the game. Tunic is pretty, you play as a cute little fox, and, well, it kinda looks like Zelda. At least those were my initial thoughts about the game prior to playing it. However, while those are all lovely elements of the game, we believe what makes Tunic truly special is how rewarding it feels when you successfully work your way through one of the many mysteries the game has for you to explore. We recommend trying to play Tunic without turning to the internet for help when you hit a roadblock. It just makes the experience feel so much more rewarding, and it also makes you feel clever when you figure it out. Cult of the Lamb. Speaking of games you really have to play to understand, Cult of the Lamb is a farming simulator crossed with an action roguelike where you play as a lamb who, after being sacrificed and resurrected, must start their own cult and manage all of the day-to-day tasks that a cult leader may run into. Stuff like agriculture, marriages, death, you know, normal lamb cult leader stuff. Oh, and in between that, you also have to venture into the wilderness to battle demons and recruit members of your cult. It's equal parts cute and satanic, and personally, I find that to be a match made in heaven. Elden Ring. If you're making a list of special games that came out in 2022, your list is simply incomplete unless it features Elden Ring. While we loved how Elden Ring provided us with the same satisfaction Dark Souls and Bloodborne did in spotting a shortcut or discovering a boss's weakness, what impressed us most was Elden Ring's vast open world. Finding a way onto some seemingly inaccessible islet, stumbling into a boss fight you may or may not be ready for, or just roaming around in areas that look cool and intriguing. Elden Ring's massive and carefully designed map allows for so many different ways for you to have fun before you inevitably get absolutely mauled by all of the bosses over and over. Maybe that's just my experience. Rollerdrome. In Rollerdrome, you're a participant in a blood sport in which you must glide through cel-shaded arenas, busting cool tricks, shooting enemies, and avoiding enemy attacks while managing your weapons and controlling time. Oh, and you do it all on a pair of roller skates. It's every bit as cool as it sounds, and not just because it pulls off all of the things I mentioned, but also because it's all tied together with smooth and precise mechanics. Backed by an unsettling story of corporate greed, we feel Rollerdrome is a true sleeper hit of 2022. Bayonetta 3. Bayonetta 3 takes the series' most ridiculous themes and completely amplifies them. It indulges in humorous absurdity while still maintaining a level of grace with its rapid-fire combat and Bayonetta's fashion and wit. Also, as Engadget senior reporter Jessica Condit points out, you can literally transform into a hell train in order to take down massive beasts trying to destroy the multiverse. It's odd, but I like it. And though Bayonetta continues to get weirder and weirder as the series progresses, we find Bayonetta 3 to be a joy, with its rich mechanics and extremely satisfying action-packed gameplay.
Monsieur, does this mean Overwatch is back?
Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 didn't quite turn out to be the groundbreaking title the first Overwatch was. It's a bit rough around the edges, and the monetization system is unfortunate, to put it lightly. However, we still feel that there is a lot to love in Overwatch 2. At its core, it's, well, Overwatch, with some much needed quality of life improvements. It's also now free to play. It still has a rich lore, a memorable cast of characters, some of which have been reworked, and it builds upon the visually appealing aesthetic the first game had. In addition to that, we've had a blast playing the 4 new characters that have released since the game's launch. Give it a shot, it's free to play, so you literally have nothing to lose except hard drive space and, well, some money if you want to purchase the skins that were free, like a few months ago. Vampire Survivors. On the surface, Vampire Survivors looks, well, basic. And in ways, it is. It's a minimalistic timed survival game. You know, the type of game where you attack everything in sight for as long as you can until you inevitably become overwhelmed and succumb to the ever-growing hordes of enemies around you. That's exactly what Vampire Survivors is. You'll avoid enemy attacks while trying to put other enemies in range for your attacks, collecting experience gems in the process. This is where we found the game to be much more intricate, as you'll get a random selection of weapons and power-ups to choose from at every level. Find the right pairings, and you can evolve weapons into ultra-powerful forms. The developers have also continued to add more content to the game, such as weapons and characters, to ensure that we keep coming back. Horizon Forbidden West. Horizon Zero Dawn was a tough act to follow, but we felt that its sequel, Horizon Forbidden West, did it with grace. Forbidden West delivered even more of what we felt worked in Zero Dawn. The combat and how you traverse the world have been refined in the sequel, and there are more weapons than ever which you can customize to accommodate for your playstyle or the enemies that you're facing. One of the things we really loved about Horizon Forbidden West, and felt distinguished it most from the first game, were the relationships that the protagonist Aloy developed with her companions. Our deputy editor Nathan Ingram put it best: trying to fend off the end of the world just feels a little bit easier when you have friends by your side. OlliOlli World. Our next entry comes from the same developers as Rollerdrome, Roll 7. However, while Rollerdrome puts a fast-paced third-person shooter on a pair of roller skates, OlliOlli World puts a cartoony, cute, action platformer on a skateboard. In OlliOlli World, you progress through 5 worlds, completing missions and exploring levels while busting flip tricks and grinding on rails with beautiful 2D side-scrolling gameplay. OlliOlli World is much more forgiving at first than the other entries in the OlliOlli franchise. We found it a lot easier to start pulling off wild combos of tricks than ever before. However, the game still offers enough difficulty to keep you hooked if you want to beat every challenge, which requires your reflexes to be sharp and also calls for a bit of creativity in order to vary your tricks and moves constantly. On top of that, OlliOlli World also allows you to customize your own character. And competitive elements like daily challenges keep you invested in coming closer and closer to your goal of becoming a skate god.
The girl. Is she alive?
The Last of
What
Us
girl?
Remake. Okay, let's face it, The Last of Us is just going to be one of those games that keeps coming out forever. It's like the Street Fighter 2s and the Skyrims of the world. There was the original PS3 game, the PS4 remaster that followed a year later, this new remake, and it's even now coming to the PC in 2023. So sure, at this point, if you've played The Last of Us, maybe the remake isn't absolutely essential. However, to those people who may want to know what all the fuss is about before watching the upcoming HBO adaptation of the game, or for those of us who just want to revisit Joel and Ellie's journey, we believe that as of now, the PS5 version is the definitive way to experience The Last of Us. Wordle. Wordle is a simple web-based word game in which you have 6 tries to guess a 5-letter word. Each time you take a guess, a colored box will appear behind each letter of the word that you entered. A green box means the letter is in the word and in the right spot. A yellow box means that the letter is in the word but in a different spot, and a gray box means that the letter is not in the correct word at all. A simple game that can get competitive very quickly. Our deputy editor Sherilyn Lowe noted how a simple factor such as the differences in spelling between words in the US and UK could add tons of fun to the game. And it of course eventually led to lighthearted debates about how to properly spell certain words, which, I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. There's no proper way to spell any word. But can we be honest? Maybe life is just a little bit easier with less vowels in our words. I mean, God of War Ragnarok. 2018's God of War for the PS4 brought us a much more mature, aged Kratos, one that has become much more relatable to the gamers who grew alongside him. He was no longer merely the destructive Kratos, hell-bent on seeking revenge and relentless on his journey to achieving it. He now exhibits a softer and much more complex personality. Ragnarok affirms that reformation and growth and serves as a lodestar for the future of the series. Ragnarok features epic cinematic cutscenes that you don't want to skip, well-paced skill-adjustable action, and huge maps packed with treasures and secrets. Our senior editor over at Engadget, Andrew Tarantola, calls it the best written God of War game, and we definitely think that you should check it out in 2022. Neon White. Neon White is a speedrunning, parkour, first-person shooter. The basic goal of every mission is to defeat every demon in the level and head to the finish. What makes the game complex is that you have a set of weapon cards that you can either use as the weapons displayed on the card, or discard them in order to utilize unique movement abilities that ultimately make your goal easier. The challenge comes in the scoring system, where you are graded based on the time it took you to complete the level. This gets more and more difficult as you progress through the game, as you will be required to use a bit of creativity while using and sometimes combining your special movement abilities. It's fast-paced, beautiful to look at, and the soundtrack just gets you hyped. If you missed Neon White in 2022, as a lot of the people that I know did, do yourself a favor and check it out in 2023. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a beautiful sci-fi action RPG with smooth real-time RPG combat, an amazing soundtrack, and an engaging story with anime-nodding plot twists. The Xenoblade Chronicles franchise has been awing fans of action RPGs for over a decade now, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is another massive improvement. Personally, I started my Xenoblade journey with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I felt to be the best entry point in the series since. However, that all changed when I played Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Engadget's UK Bureau Chief can attest to that, as Xenoblade Chronicles 3 served as his entry point to the series, and he has since downloaded the original Xenoblade Chronicles along with its sequel, and after playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I guarantee you're all going to want to do the same. Ghostwire Tokyo. Ghostwire Tokyo is a first-person action-adventure game using elemental attacks, charms, and a spiritual bow and arrow set to take down an array of spirits that have invaded a substantial patch of central Tokyo. First of all, Ghostwire Tokyo is a game that is often beautiful to look at, with beautifully rendered buildings, interiors, and streets. Sometimes it's funny, with ghosts trapped in toilet cubicles that need a few extra rolls of toilet paper, and often downright eerie, as you deal with ghouls trying to kill you and spirits that need your help to move on. Ghostwire Tokyo is really everything I wanted it to be, and simply put, it's a fun supernatural game with a unique spin on the horror genre. Triangle Strategy. Triangle Strategy is a turn-based tactical RPG with some of the most stunning visuals I've ever seen in a tactical RPG. It blends old school sprites with a 2.5D style. Triangle Strategy brought us back to the classics such as Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Ogre like no other game has in the last decade. Multiple endings, a deep roster of memorable characters, and rewarding turn-based combat make Triangle Strategy a true callback to classic strategy RPGs. If you're a fan of tactical, turn-based RPGs, Triangle Strategy is a game that we highly recommend. Stray. Stray has something to offer for everyone, even dog people. In Stray, you play as an ordinary orange cat, not the lasagna-eating type, but the nimble, adventurous type. After falling down a deep, dark hole, you limp your way out of the sewer and eventually make your way into a domed, futuristic city inhabited by humanoid robots. You eventually gain a companion, B12, that allows you to communicate with the robots and hack terminals. While finding your way out of the robot city to reunite with your feline buddies, you will collect items that help your companion B12 remember where it came from. Playing as a cat allows for a lot of creativity in how you solve puzzles and traverse the world in Stray. Its multi-leveled and highly explorable level design will be sure to satisfy even the most curious of cats within you. Marvel Snap. Marvel, who now fills up our streaming services with epic, larger-than-life cinematic features, is probably the last company you'd expect a card game from. Marvel Snap is a digital collectible card game in which you pit your cards against your opponents and battle for locations. These matches are won by acquiring 2 of the 3 locations during the match, determined by the level of the cards you place on each location. The game is filled with amazing artwork and digs deep into the Marvel lore, even in the case of lesser-known Marvel heroes. Engadget senior reporter Sam Rutherford mentioned in his entry about Marvel Snap that the game makes delving deep into the lore more intriguing than any of the films ever did, and with its inclusion of deep-cut characters such as Hal Cow and Devil Dinosaur, it's safe to say it's a more accessible way to dig deep into the lore as well. For me, it serves as a fun and efficient way for me to get to know all of the Marvel characters who may not have had their time in the sunlight. 2022 was truly a year that had something in store for gamers of all types. I mean, in this list alone, we've got something for strategy RPG fans, action RPG fans, roller skaters, skateboarders, cat people, dog people, and everything in between. And beyond, really. 2023 is quickly approaching, and with an awesome year of gaming now in the rearview mirror, we look forward to all of the epic adventures that the video games of 2023 will bring us, and of course, the list we get to make about them at the end of the year. Until next time, thank you for watching, and please like this video and subscribe to Engadget for more news, reviews, and tech stuff.